ladies and gentlemen, it is I, Emily Sophia, here to break down for you guys the second episode of the third season of Hannibal. We are on Primavera, so spoiler alert before we dive into the mad thick of things, as I shall be bearing all in this review. And if you happen to miss my review of the season premiere, you can find that right on down in the description, but I'm assuming that you came to the review of the second episode to actually discuss the second episode. So going forward with that assumption, let us begin. And I'm going to attempt to cover all the things that transpired in yet another ridiculously surreal, crazy episode. And as you may very well know if you've seen my reviews before, I do everything off the cuff, which is very difficult to do with a show of this caliber of extravagance. In every single scene is bursting to the gills with meaning and significance, and there are so many ways to break this all down. I know that I'm going to fail to cover everything, so this gives you, the audience, the opportunity to fill in the blanks for me down below. So, what we got to see this week, of course, was yet another, we had simultaneous trips forwards in time and backwards in time, back to the pivotal event at the end of the second season, which I was really hoping we were not going to have to relive, but there were also so many other horrifying things that we got to experience for the first time in this episode, namely Hannibal's broken heart. Which I don't even want to go there, but I'm gonna go there. So we go back to the very start of a most bloody episode in which Hannibal reveals his brokenness to Will and inflicts that upon him for destroying this future that they had together, this place that had been prepared for Hannibal and Will and Abigail. And we also got to go on another delightful trip involving the somehow mysteriously back from the dead Abigail, who turns out to be encapsulated in the mind of Will, which is both a brilliant device and just immeasurably frustrating because I'm trying so hard to sink my teeth into what is actually happening in this show, because there is so much that is occurring on a psychological level, and especially getting to see things from Will's perspective. He's living the multiverse, essentially, is what is happening in this episode. I mean, when he first comes back from the dead, surprise, surprise, finds Abigail at his bedside, and they are talking about how everything that is going to be will happen in all different ways, good and bad, the full spectrum of whatever. So where is the good and where is the bad if everything is going to happen anyway? So why not go pursue your long lost love? It's what is meant to be. And then ultimately getting to go back and revise that memory. The first memory we are presented with is, of course, one of the kind of possible outcomes of the situation. And then we return to what actually transpired, which sees Will going to the hospital and Abigail going to another place where living people do not go. So we get that finalized for us after I was so willing, against all odds, to believe that she was physically, tangibly there. I don't know what's wrong with me. I really do feel like the crazy one in this situation. But it's so fascinating to see the way that plays out in the way that Abigail is communicating ideas to Will. It seems to be just kind of a feedback loop of Will's own design, which it actually does turn out to be, because she is continuously pushing him to press forward, to press onward, and to draw ever nearer to the author of their demise. And we get these cuts back and forth between Will sitting with Abigail in almost this kind of worshipful state in the church, and he's reflecting on how maybe there's a universe in which all of them could have come out alive. And I think that was kind of the tip of the iceberg of realizing that Abigail was not actually among us. And then we kept cutting back to the scenes with, what is the name of the cop? I had actually looked it up so as to not sound like I totally don't know what I am talking about. But I was doing my best to keep my head above the water and blood of this episode. Oh my gosh. It is an incredibly Italian name. Renaldo. That is Rinaldi? Renaldo. Yes, that's the name. Okay. Victory last. So anyways, cuts back to the scene of the crime with Renaldo, who is very much drawn to take down the monster of Florence, whom he encountered decades ago. And while Renaldo is pursuing Hannibal for the purpose of finally pinning down the monster responsible for the Primavera, Will is not exactly sure whose side he is on, because he is being compelled by this Abigail vision persona in his mind that basically is embodying his desire to be near Hannibal at whatever the cost, ultimately leading him into the catacombs, into the tombs, offering forgiveness on his fishing line. So, is Hannibal in fact going to bite? Well, maybe, if it's a finger or something on the hook, but I don't know. Oy, oy, oy. So, I must also state that this is definitely one of the more disturbing episodes that the series has graced us with so far. That is how I personally feel, mainly because I am in no way okay with a humanoid, stag-leg-bodied, horn-face man bursting out of a heart made of a human. There's a lot of layers, not unlike a cake or an onion, but also, well, a little rare, shall we say. Not so much on the well done side of the spectrum. A little too rare for me to be willing to partake. Sorry, Hannibal, but I saw a tiny little glimpse of the Stagenstein, I think is what Brian Fuller was referring to. I think that's how he was referring to it on Twitter. I don't know. What kind of tomfoolery ensues in that writing room? I mean, who is worshiping Satan among them? Because there are things that are occurring that I feel should not be. That was honestly, for me, seeing the Stagenstein creature emerge from Hannibal's broken heart as kind of Hannibal incarnate coming after Will. That was like a Dead Space moment. I don't know if you guys have ever played the original Dead Space, but I'm talking those kinds of abominations out in the nether regions of the galaxy. Yeah, that's how I was feeling in that moment. I was like, where are my weapons? I'm feeling a little bit exposed, but good God. I mean, I think of all the people who started watching the show and dropped off the face of the earth with it, and I'm like, oh, well, maybe there's some episode with which, I can convince them to return, to come back to the fold, but I fear that's never gonna work out again. Rest in peace, all my friends who gave Hannibal a try once upon a time. I mean, this is one of those very divisive outings in the show that I think kind of, separates the oil from the water. You're either going to continue to go forward in utter confusion and reckless abandon and emotional turmoil, or you're just gonna not. That's kind of the way I feel. It's gotta be. I mean, I don't know where you guys are all at, but I guess I have a hard time imagining being in kind of a lukewarm place about this show, just because of the level of weirdness. And well, in fact, the fact of the matter is that there is no level that the show is unwilling to visit. Again, it's kind of part of that multiverse idea that Will is working with, in which he is letting himself sort of eke out in all directions, even in the directions that mean pursuing Hannibal as more than a friend, more than an enemy. And so he is trying to match Hannibal, letting his mind move in all these directions, just like Hannibal lets his mind move in all directions for his own enjoyment, amusement, and pleasure. Also, you guys probably noticed this if you are familiar with the rest of Hannibal lore, but we did get a fun little moment in which Will is talking to Brain Abigail about how Hannibal would delight in the roof coming down upon, you know, an entire congregation of his people. I thought in the discussions about Hannibal's sort of relationship with God that he is not God himself, but believes in him very intimately. And that is kind of the way that Hannibal has structured himself. Because we've seen him as, you know, he sees himself as a god, or he is Satan, but he just kind of is sitting among the deities, both good and bad. You know, he's sitting in the stadium seats with the Most High and just kind of kicking his feet up and waiting to see what's going to happen. Seeing himself as one who partakes in the heavenly and hellish things, without any qualms about what side or where he truly lies. He's one of the big wigs in the spiritual, metaphysical world of sorts. I couldn't help but think about that moment from the last episode, where Hannibal is saying that it's not cannibalism unless two are equal. And so, you know, it's like, I don't really know how that fully attaches to what we saw this week, but that's really stuck in my head for some reason. But yeah, so we got a little dip into Disturbia this week, and there was actually, I was still able to watch the emergence of the Stagenstein, and I was able to feel gross and sad inside, but I couldn't actually watch the part of, like, the bodies being cut into when we went back to the flashback 8 months previously, the Red Wedding at Hannibal's place. I was not able to watch that. I can't watch bodies, like, getting cut into and moved in weird ways. Yeah, so that's just kind of where I stand on the matter. I don't know about you guys, but that's some kind of, like, weird triggery stuff for me, and so it's like, I want to watch the show because it is beautiful in the most ghastly way, but this actually kind of surpassed even my personal threshold that I have stretched so far to accommodate my love of the show. So far. I am also letting my mind move in all directions. Another thing that I think was cool about this episode was the parallels that we got to see between Will and Bedelia, between the different people who Hannibal is controlling. Controlling. Bedelia still argues that she has a sense of self-control, but he is nonetheless master puppeteer manipulator behind the scenes. Anyways, so we get at the beginning of the episode in the first flashback where Will is consumed in his blood and Abigail's blood, and just he too, like Bedelia, is drowning in Hannibal. But see, we see him sinking into the blood, whereas last week we saw Bedelia sinking into the waters, and so that was kind of a cool bit of parallelism that we got to see. Also, an interesting theme of this episode was the continuing reopening of wounds to kind of fit with the idea of the bleeding heart. I think I'm recalling this correctly, the kind of tableau, the art piece that Hannibal so vulnerably prepares in that cathedral, you know, like I think there's like blood underneath the heart-shaped body to kind of, you know, symbolize his brokenness at what might have been and what Will just didn't have the heart to see. But yeah, and then we see in Will's mind, you know, when he has that dream and wakes up, so to speak, in Hannibal's office at his house. And there is kind of remembering the idea of Hannibal's palace, and Will kind of creates his palace of the mind too, by bringing Abigail back to life in the only way that he knows how. I think too that Abigail kind of represents really his scary oneness that he has kind of achieved with Hannibal now that they're both kind of stalking and encircling each other around the world. But, you know, the fact that in the first season, Will found himself even identifying with Abigail's father, and now she, in Will's mind, is encouraging him to identify with and pursue Hannibal, pursue the place he has for them. It's really the only space in which Will feels like he can dwell. And we still don't 100% know who actually made it out alive from the bloodbath in Hell's Kitchen, you know? Although prospects are not looking good. And it's still, I was so ready to believe, like with what Abigail was saying, that that Hannibal wanted them both alive, but really Abigail was kind of serving as the bait for Will in essence. So it really comes down to the two of them. I'm kind of the mind frame now that if any of the other characters, if Jack or Alana are going to reappear, perhaps it might be in the astral plane of Will's head, because I can't deal with the whiplash. I feel like I kind of need to do the like guilty until proven innocent approach, where it's like everybody's dead until they're proven not dead. But then I'm not sure how the show is going to do that, because it is so over the top artsy that I cannot fathom what's really happening. At the same time, there is still such an emotional intensity in the way that things are presented, the way the show is acted, that keeps me feeling like I have an idea of what's going on the surface. It's just that we are seated in the minds of these truly, unbelievably, astronomically messed up people. And that is the ride that we get to enjoy on this little roller coaster. Yeah, but so many scary parts of this episode too. I mean, I like walking upstairs to go film this vlog from downstairs. I turn off all the lights, and like I have my phone light as kind of a flashlight, and my cat darts out in front of me, and I'm just like, you know, jumping up against the wall, like, who goes there? Because I'm not entirely sure that I'm not in the catacombs hunting Hannibal or being hunted by him. So yeah, that was really, really spooky Tomb Raider stuff at the end there. And ultimately we get to see that kind of iconic scene from the season trailer in which Will says, "I forgive you." So, you know, love is an open door. He is presenting Hannibal with the opportunity to draw near to him, but he knows that he's still got to do quite a bit of pursuing. So this is going to be a very fascinating rest of the season. And very much what we got to see this week was sort of, we got a little glimpse into the birth, the kind of springtime awakening of Hannibal, and then the reawakening of little broken teacup Will, who I found so silly. It was such a like Alice in Wonderland drugs trippy moment of like the it was in that like blood ocean scene where Will is sinking, but he is sinking like as this teacup that is like being made and unmade and made and unmade, and people are bleeding and unbleeding, and just he's trying to find some kind of way to live in this world in which he now lives. And while there are these moments of slippage, of terror, he finds that he identifies so much more with this monster than he feels like he can stay away. So yeah, Primavera really solidified that for us in a big way. So let me know if there's anything glaring that I happen to miss in this review. It's so good to be back with you guys talking about this, and I will be doing the second season of True Detective 2. And do stick around for my Game of Thrones finale review this Sunday, because I do sense that certain shenanigans are gonna go down. So let's do that together, and more Hannibal, and hopefully some more original music on this channel soon too. So thank you guys for waltzing through the boulevard of broken dreams and broken Hannibal hearts. I hope that you all get some sleep, because I think I'm going to be avoiding that for a little while. So you guys take care if you can, okay? And as always, I will be back before you know it.